I watched a friend of mine scrolling through her feed the other night, and it really didn't look like leisure. It looked more like she was defusing a bomb.
Oh, wow.
Seriously.
Yeah.
She wasn't just, passively watching. She was calculating every single micro movement. She would deliberately click like on some highbrow architectural review. Then immediately, almost like violently, mark a recommended celebrity gossip clip as not interested.
Right. I've seen people do that.
She turned to me with this proud, almost conspiratorial look and said she was training the beast. She was carefully constructing this digital mask so the algorithm would only see the intellectual version of her.
She thought she was in control.
Completely. She believed she was the one holding the leash. But then the facade it cracked.
Yeah.
She made a single casual search for weekend camping, just one.
Oh, no.
Instantly, the carefully curated art gallery she had built on her screen was just annihilated. In seconds, her feed was carpet-bombed with tents, portable stoves, and top 10 glamping spots.
Wow.
It completely buried her intellectual persona. The shift was so brutal and so immediate. She looked at me, genuinely unsettled, and just whispered, it was just one thought. How did it rewrite me so fast?
Yeah.
That moment, that rapid swing from feeling like a master manipulator to a helpless target, it just perfectly encapsulates this strange war we are all fighting in the dark. It raises a question we usually try to ignore. In this high-stakes game of chess against a code that never sleeps, are you actually the player moving the pieces, or are you just the pawn being played?
That experience, that's it right there. That rapid swing from perceived control to this sudden vulnerability, it perfectly captures the core tension in our digital lives right now.
It really does.
It is incredibly easy to feel like the pawn when the platform seems to read your mind, or even worse, when it feels like it's dictating your interests.
Right.
But the research we've been looking at shows that the situation is, well, it's far more nuanced than just simple control.
So it's not a simple master-slave relationship.
Not at all. Our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack this complex game of chess. The fundamental friction between, human intuition and machine code. We need to examine how users are influenced, yes, but critically, how they employ these really sophisticated strategies, often based on pure instinct, to fight back, adapt, and even turn the algorithm to their own advantage.
Okay, let's unpack this war footing. Before we get into the tactics of resistance and, cooperation, we have to define the battlefield. What are the core friction points? Because my friend's panic wasn't just about getting bad recommendations. It felt deeper than that, like the system breached some kind of invisible fundamental boundary.
It absolutely felt like a breach because these structural conflicts are, they're built right into the fabric of these systems. We've identified 4 core friction points that fundamentally drive all of this user algorithm, interaction, and tension. These are the non-negotiable structural problems.
Okay, so give us the inventory. Let's start with the one that feels the most violated.
That would have to be privacy. It's just the innate human desire for secrecy, right? For having an inner life that isn't for sale.
Right.
And that desire is in direct conflict with the algorithm's non-negotiable need for massive, unfiltered volumes of data to function effectively. This is where the machine's efficiency clashes, and it clashes violently with just basic human dignity.
And where do users actually see this conflict? Where does it become undeniable?
The tension becomes crystal clear during what one of our sources calls no2, which translates roughly to the algorithm's moment of reckoning.
The moment of reckoning, I like that.
It's the moment the curtain is pulled back. The classic example, and I think everyone has experienced this, is cross-platform tracking.
Oh, yeah.
You search for some niche, high-priced item on a retail site you almost never use, and then immediately unrelated platforms like your social media feed or a completely different news site are serving you ads for that exact item.
The moment where the wall between your apps just completely collapses.
Exactly. It breaks that implicit boundary users assume exists between applications, and it makes your digital identity feel, well, fully transparent and consolidated.
It's creepy.
It is. The algorithm isn't just recommending content based on what you did in that app. It's confirming it has been watching everywhere else you went. And this consolidation of data can even pull your real-life social graph by, say, reading your contacts list.
Whoa.
It blends your online virtual self with your offline reality, which for many people is profoundly unsettling and creates a really high level of anxiety. They suddenly realize their digital identity isn't fragmented, it's centralized, and they don't know who holds the master key.
Okay, so if privacy is about the data they take from us, the second conflict feels more about the choices they leave us with. or don't leave us with.
That's autonomy. We universally crave free choice, the ability to explore nonlinear paths, to just stumble upon something new.
Serendipity.
Serendipity, yes. But the algorithm excels at the subtle, gentle influence, what researchers call the hue or nudge.
It's not a command.
No, it's a soft persuasion that constantly, quietly restricts the content diversity you encounter.
So if I only watch content about dogs, it doesn't say only watch dogs. It just makes it almost impossible to find anything about cats.
Precisely. And this restriction has real-world consequences beyond just, boredom. This process promotes specific and often very idealized or stereotypical values.
Like what are some examples of that?
For instance, the algorithm might constantly serve up content reinforcing these prescriptive ideas of how girls should look like this, or it might outline these really rigid paths to achieving specific financial milestones by a certain age.
So it's subtly boxing you in.
It limits your ability to explore non-mainstream or complex possibilities. And that leads to a sense that your life choices are being framed and dictated by a data-driven blueprint, not your own curiosity. It's a very comfortable but a very, very small cage.
That restriction of possibility that feeds directly into the third conflict, which is fundamental transactional, digital labor. This is the invisible cost of just participating.
This is, I think, perhaps the most cynical friction point because it often goes completely unrecognized. Every scroll, every click, every comment, every single view you perform, it's unpaid labor.
You're working for free.
You are constantly generating valuable data. That massive aggregated volume of data feeds the machine. It makes its predictions more accurate, which directly generates aggregated profit for the platform owners.
Can you give us some surprising examples of what counts as this unpaid labor? Because it's obviously more than just watching videos, right?
Oh, far more. When you tag a friend in a video, you are performing data categorization for them for free. When you create user-generated content, you're giving a platform fresh, proprietary content, again, for free.
So you're the product and the producer.
Exactly. Even the simple act of browsing products on a platform like TikTok Shop and leaving them in your cart, that abandonment signal is invaluable market research that companies would pay millions of dollars for. Your attention, your time, your intentions, they are all refined and transformed into a traded commodity in this precise commercial closed loop.
And users only realize it when?
When they see that perfectly hyper-targeted ad. That is the moment their free participation is explicitly monetized right back at them.
And that brings us to the final one, and it's maybe the most baffling conflict. Relevance failure. The sheer paradox of this.
Yeah.
It's staggering.
It is. Despite collecting these oceanic amounts of data, knowing your geographic location, your relationship status, your purchasing history, your precise viewing time down to the millisecond algorithms frequently fail to provide truly relevant or deeply insightful content.
But if they know so much, why the failure? Why are they so bad at it sometimes?
Because instead of deep insight, they default to broad, often crude, stereotypical recommendations. They're chasing volume and safety rather than nuance.
They play the odds.
They play the odds. The sources we looked at provided a really powerful example, a highly specialized male professional.
Yeah.
His actual interest was in niche industrial design concepts. Yet, because he was male and the algorithm wanted easy wins, his feed was constantly flooded with generic, high-traffic celebrity gossip or superficial posts related solely to gender stereotypes that had nothing to do with his professional life.
The algorithm couldn't see past the label.
It failed to see the complex, specialized individual. Instead, it just slapped on the cheapest, most generalized label it could find and pushed generic content. It shows this profound gap between data quantity and true human understanding.
So these four conflicts, privacy, autonomy, labor, and failure, they basically define this digital battleground. Let's turn now to the weapon the platforms use to execute their side of the game. Our material heavily focuses on TikTok's mechanism, the almighty For You page, or FYP, as the primary engine of influence.
The FYP is truly the gold standard of modern algorithmic persuasion because it is designed for maximum efficiency. It's built on advanced machine learning, and its power lies in two principal interconnected steps.
Okay.
First, it efficiently clusters the massive content database, and we're talking billions of videos based on variables like shared audio tracks, associated hashtags, and caption analysis. It organizes the information so it knows what kind of video is available.
Right, it's creating a library.
Yeah.
And the second step is where the user comes in.
Exactly. The machine then deeply analyzes user behavioral patterns, Every micro-interaction from your scrolling speed to time spent, shares, comments, repeat watches, it synthesizes all this data in real time.
And the goal of all this?
The ultimate driving goal of these two mechanisms is to achieve near-zero discrepancy between predicted and actual user engagement.
So if the algorithm predicts I'll watch a 15-second clip for 10 seconds and I watch it for 10.1 seconds, that's a win for them, and the system learns from that.
That is a measurable success, a huge success. The platform doesn't just want a user to scroll, it wants the user to stay and perform. The ultimate success metric for the algorithm is user retention, which is achieved by users consistently scrolling and engaging with videos that the system successfully predicted they would like. This creates an extremely persuasive, real-time feedback loop.
And we have some fascinating measured data from a study on millennial and Gen Z users in Southeast Asia, specifically the Klang Valley in Malaysia, that details just how persuasive this mechanism is in practice. This isn't just theory. This is observed, measured behavioral influence.
The data really confirms the platform's intense persuasive nature across three critical dimensions. Let's look at the raw numbers on behavioral influence. A significant majority, 43.3% of users, showed a high level of behavioral influence from the algorithm's recommendations.
Wow, almost half.
And another 39.9% showed a moderate level. This means that an overwhelming majority, we're talking nearly 83% of users surveyed, frequently adjust their viewing habits, their consumption, and even their product choices based on what the FYP serves up.
That level of compliance is massive. I mean, that validates the platform's entire business model right there.
And that compliance directly translates into the second finding, platform success. The study showed a staggering 57.6% exhibited high engagement. They aren't just scrolling, they are active participants liking, commenting, sharing, remixing content. This just confirms the algorithm's primary objective, driving that active participation and consumption that, in turn, generates more data labor.
But the finding that truly validates the depth of the algorithm's penetration, the one that moves from mere behavior to actual belief, is the data on self-persuasion.
This is the critical finding, I think. The ability of platform content to change a user's internal landscape, their attitudes, their personal values, their self-perception, is arguably the platform's most powerful and perhaps most overlooked function.
So what did the numbers show?
The study found that 46.8% of users showed a high degree of self-persuasion. This means they are influenced by platform content to adopt new behaviors or attitudes, linking the algorithmic feed directly to fundamental changes in how they see the world and themselves.
So it's not just entertaining them with dance videos. It is fundamentally rewiring their beliefs, their aspirations, and even their self-image.
Exactly. And the study statistically links these concepts, proving they don't operate in isolation. The core hypotheses were confirmed through some really robust correlation analysis. There is a moderate correlation between behavioral influence and engagement, measured at R=0.623.
What do you mean there?
Simply put, when the algorithm successfully influences what you see, you engage more actively. It's a feedback loop.
But here's where it gets really interesting. That strong correlation between influence and self-persuasion.
Yes, this was the strongest finding by far. There is a strong correlation between behavioral influence and self-persuasion, measured at a very high R=0.769. Now, to put that in perspective for you, correlations above 0.70 are considered very, very strong, suggesting a tight predictive relationship.
So if I start watching videos about, say, starting a new diet, the platform doesn't just show me more diets. That's influence and engagement. There's a nearly 77% chance that I'm actually going to adopt the values and beliefs promoted by that diet culture itself.
That is the implication. This strong connection means the platform is doing far more than just filling idle time or providing content variety. It is, as you said, a belief-shaping engine. This insight elevates the platform beyond a simple content distributor to a powerful psychological shaper of user behavior and beliefs.
And the very thing that makes it so good at recommending videos is what makes it so potentially dangerous.
That's the paradox. The very efficiency of the recommendation engine is what makes its influence so profound and so potentially negative.
And the research we looked at doesn't shy away from those negative implications.
Not at all. It highlights the really serious potential impacts, like promoting addictive screen behaviors, contributing to significantly shortened attention spans, or exposing users, especially vulnerable younger audiences, to harmful content that the moderation filters might miss. The system is designed to lock you in, and in doing so, it can rapidly reinforce extreme or unhealthy views, making it much harder for the user to break free.
So the algorithm is smart, it's persuasive, and it influences our deepest beliefs. This is where the tension boils over and the user stops being the passive pawn. This brings us to the fundamental weapon of the human side, algorithmic metis.
Metis is the absolute key to understanding user agency in this digital environment. We aren't talking about, coding knowledge or some formal expertise. Metis is an ancient Greek concept for practical, intuitive wisdom, what we might call street smarts or kind of cunning acquired through repeated interaction, trial and error, and shared user experience.
So it's a feeling, a learned instinct.
It's a learned instinct. This metis is not found in a user manual. It's that intuitive understanding of which button press confuses the algorithm and which one pleases it. It is the foundation for all user resistance and all sophisticated adaptation strategies.
That moment when my friend turned to me and whispered she was training the beast, that's metis in action. It's that learned knowledge that one small counterintuitive action can save you from a week of irrelevant recommendations.
Exactly. And the primary fuel driving users to employ this metis seems to be a profound anxiety over their data privacy, which we identified as conflict number 1.
It all comes back to privacy.
It does. Data from a study focusing on Chinese youth confirms this high anxiety level. A massive 96.8% of respondents worry about privacy leakage when using the internet in general, and a very high 92.6% worry specifically about algorithm leakage. This fear fuels their engagement in what we're calling guerrilla tactics.
Okay, guerrilla tactics, what are they?
These are strategies designed to actively confuse the algorithm and avoid its control.
These are the users who turn into true double agents then, using their metis to launch a kind of digital insurgency. Let's walk through the most common tactics mentioned in the research, starting with the most defensive move.
First up, we have self-elimination. This is basically using the platform's own privacy and management tools against it to actively reduce your data footprint.
How does that work in practice?
It could be meticulously reviewing and turning off unnecessary app permissions, hiding your follow list from public or network view, or even blocking contacts and refusing friend suggestions to actively refuse the algorithm's attempts at social binding. You're consciously drawing these thick, clear boundaries around the data streams you permit the platform to access.
Okay, so that's defense. Then there is the deliberate act of confusion, algorithmic gaming. This is what my friend was trying to do when she clicked like on architectural reviews and then immediately marked celebrity gossip as not interested.
Precisely. This is actively injecting chaos into the data set. Users deliberately feed the system confusing or false signals. This can be as simple as entering an incorrect age or gender during setup, or it can be far more complex, like clicking randomly and quickly on content they have zero interest in, or spending time on topics they actively dislike.
So the goal is just to create a messy profile.
A blurred, inaccurate, or noisy data profile so the algorithm cannot lock onto a clear, easily monetizable target.
So people are essentially sacrificing their short-term feed quality just to contaminate their data profile long-term. That is a truly strategic, long-term digital perspective.
It is. It's a calculated trade-off. And the most advanced move in this category is contradictory behavior. This is a direct internal challenge to the machine's own logic that forces an error state.
What does that look like?
For example, you might watch a video fully, which is a very strong signal to the system, and then immediately mark it as not interested or select the reason too much similar content.
You're sending two opposite signals at the same time.
Exactly. This mixed, high affinity, high rejection signal forces the algorithm to reevaluate what your profile truly wants, and it disrupts the efficiency of the prediction engine. The machine really struggles to categorize you when you send conflicting signals of that magnitude.
Now let's talk about a strategy that moves beyond just confusing a single platform. This idea of digital mobility or platform nomadism.
This strategy acknowledges that a user's true narrative shouldn't be fully captured by any single digital ecosystem. It is a geographically widespread form of resistance, particularly prominent among users in Thailand, Myanmar, and Vietnam. We see this vividly in the case study of Fern in Bangkok.
Tell us about Fern. What does she do?
Fern is a university student, and she's described as being intensely loyal to her own interests, not to any single app. If the political discourse on a platform like Facebook becomes too controlled, too homogenized, or just too emotionally taxing,
Which happens.
She doesn't just scroll past it. She migrates her core conversational attention entirely to Twitter for a period. If Twitter becomes toxic, she shifts to closed, private line groups to maintain intimacy and control over her audience. For pure entertainment, she shifts over to TikTok.
So migrating her attention across multiple platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Line, TikTok, is essentially a way of voting with her presence, but it's also a way of protecting her digital self from total capture.
Exactly. She is deliberately segmenting her interests and distributing her data across multiple silos. This constant, non-random migration prevents any one platform from forming a complete, single identity portrait of her. By refusing to consolidate her digital life, she exerts a silent but consistent pressure on the platforms, forcing them to compete for her fractured attention. This is a very clear, implicit form of user governance.
And finally, the ultimate retreat, the last resort.
Digital dormancy. When all else fails, or when the cost of these guerrilla tactics becomes too high, the user temporarily uninstalls the app or pauses the account for a digital forgetting reboot.
It's the user just saying, I'm out.
It's the user saying, I refuse to generate data for you right now, and I refuse to be influenced, forcing a temporary reset of the entire algorithmic relationship.
It's fascinating how this learned intuitive behavior, this metis, manifests, especially across different cultural contexts and needs. We have a great illustration of algorithmic metis from Indonesia that shows a much gentler approach.
Yes. The story of Sari, the batik seller in Jakarta, truly embodies this strategic guidance. Sari is a small business owner who relies heavily on content platforms, but she doesn't fight the algorithm in a combative sense.
She doesn't.
No, she gently guides it. She treats her For You page like a prize garden that requires meticulous pruning and fertilizing.
A garden. I love that metaphor. What does that look like in her daily scrolling?
She's highly intentional. Sari's primary goal is business growth and artistic inspiration. So if she sees irrelevant, distracting content like viral dance challenges or generic influencer drama that won't help her batik business,
Right.
she actively long presses the screen and selects not interested. She is meticulously eliminating the weeds from her garden.
And what about the flowers? The good stuff.
Conversely, content that is relevant, videos featuring Javanese art techniques, small business operational tips, or new packaging ideas, she doesn't just watch them once. She watches them fully, maybe she watches them again, and she engages with the comment.
So she's sending the strongest possible positive and negative signals to create these two very distinct categories, helpful and useless.
That's right. She is using the native tools of the platform, but with a strategic professional mindset. She's forcing the machine to serve her specific creative and professional needs rather than just delivering distraction. Sari understands that the algorithm wants to please her to keep her on the app, and she exploits that desire. Her goal is self-optimization. She's transforming the viewing experience from passive consumption into strategic labor aimed at generating valuable business insight.
Okay, so while those guerrilla tactics we just talked about focus on resistance and evasion, it's crucial to remember that user behavior is also, and maybe equally, defined by strategic cooperation.
It is. Users often realize that the platform provides too much essential utility to fight constantly, so they adapt proactively to maximize that utility.
This sounds like acknowledging the simple truth. Sometimes the cost of fighting the algorithm, the energy, the anxiety, the noise in your feed, is just higher than the cost of simply complying with its basic rules.
And that realization leads to the first phase of adaptation, which is active adaptation, or what we could call strategic apathy. Users consciously choose to ignore the negative side effects, the minor privacy invasions, the slightly unrelated ads, the subtle nudge, because the platform delivers core social or professional services they need.
It's a trade-off.
It's a cynical trade-off, but a highly rational one. They accept this friction as the digital normal in exchange for frictionless access to core utility.
Then you have the users who don't just accept the trade-off, they perfect it. The ones who turn cooperation into a real art form.
That is tactical compliance, or actively training the algorithm. These users intentionally provide clear, high-quality, unambiguous data. They engage in dense searching, concentrated liking, and focused following to speed up the personalization process.
Their goal is to get a better feed faster.
Exactly. They want to rapidly shape the feed to their exact desires, cutting out the noise through affirmative action and turning the machine into a highly efficient personal assistant.
And their metis allows them to even exploit the system's design.
Absolutely. The research highlights instances of advanced exploitation. For example, users know that platform search results often heavily prioritize commercial, promoted, or high monetization content.
Right, the ads are always at the top.
To bypass this commercial filter, sophisticated users will immediately switch from the default search results page to the latest or chronological tab.
Oh, that's smart.
It is. Content there is ordered by time, minimizing the algorithm's commercial filtering and maximizing the chance of finding high-quality, non-monetized information from trusted, smaller sources.
That is a master-level move. To put a face on this strategic cooperation and self-curation, let's look at the case of Wei, the young professional in Shanghai.
Wei exemplifies this concept of silent collusion. He works in investment banking and uses a content platform to cultivate a very specific professional image and mindset. He maintains an extremely strict, almost monastic discipline over his platform usage.
How so?
He treats his entire data profile as a meticulously crafted digital resume.
He's performing for the algorithm like it's a potential employer or a mentor.
Precisely. Wei strictly refuses to click on any clickbait, sensational gossip, or low-quality content, even if he's momentarily tempted. His active engagement is exclusively focused on content related to investment strategies, high-end travel experiences, and minimalist productivity hacks. He is intentionally curating an echo chamber of aspiration.
What's the motivation for this extreme discipline? Is it just about appearances?
It's deeper than that. He is training the AI to be his co-architect. By feeding it only high-quality, focused data, he ensures the platform constantly serves him social cues, news, and opportunities that align with his highly ambitious, aspirational self.
So he recognizes that the system will shape his reality.
He does. So he ensures the system shapes a reality conducive to his success. He is not a victim of the echo chamber. He is the architect of it. He's engaging in a conscious exchange of data for a curated worldview that supports his ambition.
So for him, the ultimate control is not resisting the algorithm, but making the algorithm a tool for your ambition. This complexity, this blend of cooperation and resistance, these strategic choices, requires us to understand the research on the configurational paths of manipulation. This maps out why a user chooses one strategy over the other.
This analysis is really the deepest layer of user behavior modeling we found. It maps a user's strategy based on the combination of three critical factors.
Okay, what are they?
The personality trait of openness, which is a user's inherent desire for new experiences and information diversity. Second, information quality, is the content being served narrowed, redundant, or diverse. And critically, third, algorithm quality. This is measured by the FAT criteria: fairness, accountability, and transparency.
Okay.
And no single factor dictates the outcome. It's the specific configuration of these three things that matters.
Let's start with the ideal scenario then. Maximum cooperation.
That's the high cooperative path. This occurs when a user has high openness, they crave diverse experiences, and they perceive high algorithm quality. When a system is deemed fair, accountable, and transparent, FH users trust the system.
So they lean in.
They lean in. They actively cooperate, providing excellent data to maximize their positive experience, which is path one, or they cooperate to fix a perceived redundancy, but always within a framework of trust. That's path two. They believe the machine can be trained and should be trusted.
Now, what happens when the algorithm is trustworthy, but the content is just boring? That's the tricky middle ground.
That is the hybrid manipulation path, and it contains the most subtle insight, I think. This occurs when the algorithm system itself is perceived as reliable, high FAT, but the information quality is poor, meaning the content is redundant or homogeneous.
So the user trusts the platform, but is intensely bored by the content cocoon it's created.
Exactly. So the resistance isn't driven by fear, but by boredom.
That's a huge distinction.
It is. So they employ resistance like closing permissions or scrambling minor data points to escape the homogeneity, while simultaneously cooperating by actively giving detailed feedback like too much similar content. They are using both resistance and cooperation in tandem to fix a known flaw, which is redundancy, in a system they fundamentally trust. It's a pragmatic approach to escaping the singularity of content.
That distinction is crucial. Resistance is not always anti-platform. Sometimes it's pro-diversity. Now, what about the most intense resistance?
That is the high-resistant path, which is often characterized by the information cocoon effect gone sour. High openness, combined with content narrowing or redundancy, even in a seemingly reliable system, triggers active resistance. This is where the user's metis is deployed to combat content singularity. They actively scramble data, close permissions, and use that contradictory behavior to escape the homogeneity they perceive as suffocating.
And finally, the scenarios where users they can't be bothered to engage in this complex dance.
That is the low cooperative path. This path is characterized by manipulation that is either ineffective or unnecessary. This occurs when the user lacks openness, they're passive and simply don't care enough to train the algorithm. Or conversely, when open users perceive low algorithm quality, low FAT, if the system is perceived as untrustworthy, biased, or opaque, the user might try to manipulate it but fail due to the system's inherent flaws, what we call ineffective manipulation.
Or they just give up.
Or they simply abandon the effort because they lack trust or motivation, leading to unnecessary manipulation. They just don't bother.
Yeah. The breakdown really shows us that every user action, whether they are like Way architecting his destiny or like my friend violently marking a video not interested, is a direct response to this complex system based on their personality, the content quality, and their trust in the code. This whole user algorithm dynamic plays a massive, measurable role in modern economics, particularly in rapidly growing e-commerce markets. We have compelling data from Vietnam, where social commerce platforms like TikTok Shop are not just popular, they are major drivers of consumer behavior. And here, the algorithmic influence shifts from shaping beliefs to driving immediate buying behavior.
This is where user trust becomes the ultimate currency. In these algorithmic commerce environments, purchase intention is overwhelmingly strongly influenced by user trust. And that trust isn't built on traditional metrics, but on several unique perceived values within this algorithmic environment.
So what's the number one builder of trust in this visually driven, rapid consumption model?
It starts with the quality of the communication itself, media richness. The platform's ability to provide quick, diverse, and reliable information through high-definition videos, multiple images, real-time live streams, has a positive and significant impact on user trust.
So it's about the presentation.
It is. These rich, immersive cues, often featuring influential figures like KOLs or KOCs, reduce the inherent risk of buying something unseen online and build confidence very, very rapidly.
So trust is in the presentation, not just the product. And the practical side of the transaction has to matter too.
That falls under perceived convenience. In an age of instant gratification, the ease of searching for products, the simplicity of the purchasing process, and the seamlessness of payment methods all drive user satisfaction. As satisfaction rises due to this frictionless convenience, it positively influences trust in both the seller and the underlying platform architecture.
And finally, there's still the necessary human element, even when the whole thing is mediated by code. Seller interaction.
Absolutely. The engagement of the seller is crucial. This engagement can be indirect, through the use of respected key opinion leaders or consumers who endorse the product.
Right, the influencers.
Or it can be direct by the seller providing clear, transparent, and responsive product information. This responsiveness significantly reduces the perceived risk of a bad purchase, which positively impacts user trust.
But the finding here that truly challenges traditional retail wisdom is what the research calls the price paradox. This is really counterintuitive for e-commerce.
It is radical. The study found a highly surprising result in this social commerce environment. Perceived price fairness did not have a significant impact on user trust.
Wait, say that again? Price didn't matter for trust.
In the algorithmic marketplace, trust is no longer primarily about getting the absolute lowest price or a perfect discount.
If the price isn't a primary driver of trust, what is?
Trust is now weighted more heavily on the community experience, the quality and volume of reviews, the shares and validation from other users, and the overall quality of the communication experience provided by the seller and facilitated by the algorithm.
So social proof beats price.
Users prioritize reliability, social proof, and a pleasant transaction over the cheapest possible offer. In this model, high trust means low perceived risk, and that is worth more than a small discount.
That fundamentally shifts strategy for any sellers on these platforms. They should focus less on undercutting competitors on price and much more on optimizing their video content, ensuring consistent high-quality information, and building a real community presence.
Precisely. They have to leverage the unique features of the platform, like applying current trends, utilizing creative tools, and optimizing presentation angles to achieve maximum efficiency in their communication. Community review and experience quality are the new currency of trust that the algorithm trades in.
So we've covered resistance, cooperation, and commerce. We can wrap all of these user behaviors, their metis, their strategies, into one defining concept: implicit user governance.
The collective actions of millions of users, whether they are successfully confusing the FYP or strategically training it, form an implicit governance mechanism over the entire platform ecosystem. Users are not just passive consumers. They are actively shaping the rules of engagement. We identified 3 primary types of governance users exert.
Okay, starting with the most intuitive one.
First, resistance-type governance, which includes all the guerrilla tactics we discussed. Scrambling data, digital dormancy, contradictory behavior. These actions force the platform to constantly refine its prediction models, exerting pressure on the system's logic.
Second, the proactive method.
Adaptive-type governance, where users cooperate to train the algorithm and maximize their personal utility. This includes active compliance and tactical compliance. By curating their own feeds, they are effectively demanding a certain level of information quality and relevance, forcing the platform to compete on those metrics.
And the third, the most formal and external form of influence.
Cooperative governance. This is when users jump outside the platform's immediate feedback loop and take formal external actions. This involves filing official complaints with customer service, reporting content violations, or even escalating pervasive issues to external bodies like government regulators. This shows users are not content to merely manage their personal feeds. They actively seek to shape the rules and accountability standards of the entire digital environment.
So what does this all mean for the user like my friend, who just wants to avoid the camping gear recommendations and reclaim her intellectual mask?
It means the relationship is vastly more complicated than a simple control hierarchy. It is a complex, continuous social interaction, a constant dynamic negotiation. It's not a war to be won, but a trade-off to be managed.
And the ultimate result of that negotiation?
The ultimate result is not a zero-sum game, but what we've termed a silent collusion.
Silent collusion.
Think of it like a high-end casino. The platform subtly allows loopholes for soft resistance. It gives you the not interested button. It lets you temporarily log out, but only because that tiny bit of user control creates the illusion of agency.
It's the platform giving you a small free drink just to keep you at the table.
Exactly. The platform knows that every single user action, even the act of resistance, becomes new data for the algorithm to learn from and grow smarter. Users achieve a minimum level of exploitation by retaining some autonomy and maximizing their content utility, while the platform achieves maximum data capture and monetization.
So both sides get what they need.
Both sides achieve their minimum necessity and maximum utility, not through some open agreement, but through this unspoken constant dance of wits.
The enduring truth, then, is that our relationship with the code is not a war to be won or lost, but a complex, continuous dance where our greatest power lies in recognizing and strategically wielding our own intelligence, our algorithmic metis, to define the terms of the digital interaction and claim true agency within the personalized space.